Once again, Netflix spending hundreds of millions of dollars on an action film with some big names attached. And like a lot of them, this one got trashed by the critics. Let's talk The Electric State. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my movie review for Netflix's The Electric State. This is streaming now. It actually came out a little while ago, earlier this year, but just getting around to reviewing it now. And boy, this one got railed on by the critics. 14% on Rotten Tomatoes. However, with the audience, it's a little bit higher, 68% there. And actually, I aligned for this one a little bit more with the audience. This is not nearly as bad as a lot of the Netflix action adventure movies that they just dump hundreds of millions of dollars, I should say, into, just because there's some big names and they hope it will attract some attention. So we'll talk about the reasons why here in just a moment. First, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to Dan Reviews It, I do movie and TV reviews here on the channel, and just about every day I do try to post something new, so always something to check out. With that in mind, please consider subscribing and click that notification bell. And of course, just like this video or comment below too. I love interacting with you guys in the comment section. And this one, I don't know. I mean, people seem to really be not digging it in critic circles, but I kind of enjoyed it. So this comes to us from the Russo brothers, and that is, I think, two of the big names attached to this film. They are, of course, best known for their work in the Marvel Universe, which is maybe how they, hooked up with Chris Pratt and got him to be the star of this. I don't think they directed any of the Guardians movies. I think that's James Gunn. But I know they've done, some of the Captain America movies and whatever. Maybe one of the Avengers movies or two. So anyway, Anthony and Joe Russo involved with this. Some of the other big names, I mentioned Chris Pratt, but Millie Bobby Brown, obviously a Netflix darling between Stranger Things and her Enola Holmes series. But you also have Ke Kwan, Jason Alexander, Giancarlo Esposito, Stanley Tucci. There's a lot of people in this. And then a lot of big names doing voice roles as well as some of the robots in the world. Anthony Mackie, Woody Harrelson, Jenny Slate, Alan Tudyk, Hank Azaria, Coleman Domingo, among some others. So yes, a lot of big names, a lot of money spent on this movie, probably both, for the actors and for the big CGI of it all. So this is based on a graphic novel from 2018, an illustrated novel, and we are in an alternate 1990 here, and a war between humans and robots is over. It's left the world, though, in a state of chaos. Humans managed to win the war, and then robots were banished to the exclusion zone. But because of that, many people decided to live virtual lives in sort of a vegetative state while, robots and drones did most of their work for them. And so Chris Pratt is John Keats, who is a former robot war soldier, but he is a smuggler who is making his living now selling stuff that he finds in the exclusion zone. And he's got the Anthony Mackie character, a robot named Herman, and that is sort of John's partner in crime. And then you have Millie Bobby Brown as Michelle, who is a teenager currently living in foster care. Her terrible foster father, played by Jason Alexander, operates a drone. And Woody Harrelson is, he doesn't really show up till about halfway through the movie. He plays a robot version of Mr. Peanut, which I assume had to be signed off by planters, because he's got the whole look and, the top hat and everything, and he's called Mr. Peanut. But he is basically the leader of the robots in the exclusion zone. So this is essentially, kind of like a buddy adventure. There's several buddies, really, because you've got, the Anthony Mackie robot, and then John, played by Chris Pratt, and then you've got the Millie Bobby Brown character tagging along, and, there's a few different kind of buddies here, so it's not just necessarily a two-hander like a lot of, buddy action adventure flicks are. But okay, so what sets this aside a little bit from the garbage that Netflix routinely puts out in this sort of space, the action adventure movie, maybe some sci-fi like there is here as well, with some big names. First of all, I would have to go down the list and see, like, okay, what is based on what? Are they all based on things? But this, I think, being based on an existing graphic novel gives it an interesting plot that a lot of these Netflix action movies are just so paint by numbers that the plot barely matters. They're hoping that you'll just show up to see your favorite stars, in some fighting sequences or what have you. Here, there's actually a very interesting premise. And I will say that some of the CGI here is pretty nice to look at. That was maybe money well spent on Netflix's part. $320 million, though. I mean, that is a really expensive movie. I mean, yes, I guess we're up to sort of the half a billion, price tags now with like some of the Avatar movies or whatever. But, for a streamer to spend $320 million on a movie and it's this, like, yeah, it's okay, and it's definitely a step above a lot of those other Netflix movies. But look, Chris Pratt is doing the same character he's done for the last 15 years between Star-Lord and a lot of his other adventure movies. The Jurassic World guy, I don't know his name, and that is just, I'm sort of over Chris Pratt doing the Chris Pratt thing. There was a movie not super dissimilar to this on, I think it was Amazon Prime, The Tomorrow War. That's another one where and I like that. Again, I like that more than most people did, I guess. But his shtick was sort of wearing a little bit thin. And Millie Bobby Brown, I think she's okay. And I like her in the Enola Holmes series, but as like an action superstar, I'm not quite sold on that. I do think Woody Harrelson adds some humor as Mr. Peanut, and this does actually have a bit of a sense of humor, and it works. A lot of these Netflix action movies, they try to throw in some humor, and it either doesn't work because you don't care about the characters or you don't care about the world or whatever. But here, I actually was kind of invested in this universe, in this alternate 1990. I was a little bit invested in, the pre-movie stuff, like, what happened in the war. And we get a little bit of that as the movie goes on. But I think the main problem, other than sort of, some pretty routine performances, is that I wanted to explore the world and the characters a little bit more. And I think Netflix wanted to put together more of an action adventure movie and less of a think piece. My guess would be that the graphic novel probably had some more interesting things to say in regards to, parallels with real world stuff and whatever. But this movie doesn't quite explore that in the way, that I would have liked. But look, overall, I think this is a big step up from a lot of these tentpole action movies Netflix just churns out. So I can't quite agree with the 14% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. I leave The Electric State with a C, which I guess based on Rotten Tomatoes algorithm would put me in the negative column. But yeah, I think this is an okay movie. I certainly had fun watching it, even though I wanted a lot more from it. But you can check this out now on Netflix if you are so interested. And thank you for watching Dan Reviews It. I will see you next time. Bye.